As Rangers fans, we know that a goaltender is the backbone of a hockey team. At Abundant Wealth Management, we are your financial backbone, offering financial planning, wealth management, tax planning, and estate planning services. To schedule your free consultation, head to www.abundant-wealth.com. That's www.abundant-wealth.com. Abundant Wealth Management. Live, plan, triumph.
You're listening to Rangers Radio, your home for end-to-end coverage of the New York Rangers. With your hosts, Brendan Azoff, Zach Domino, and Steve Pappas. Blue Shirts fans, the puck drops now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rangers Radio. We have the same stuff to talk about, but also some new stuff to talk about. And I can't continue to harp on the fact that the Rangers still are losing. They're 3-11 in their last 14 games. So I think that the focus of this episode is going to gear a little bit away from that. We'll get to the games and the results and the fact that they've lost to the 32nd ranked team twice in the last 2 weeks a little bit later on. But obviously the big news has been the front office, the drama surrounding the team. It's more of a reality TV show than it is a hockey team right now. And Kaapo Kakko is the latest victim and the latest cut, if you will, from this reality TV show as he was traded to the Seattle Kraken. So that's where we're going to start things off. It's the freshest news. We're going to get the takes. We're going to get our opinions on both Kakko as a player, what it means to the Rangers, Chris Drury, and boys, it's tough to watch right now. What are you guys thinking about everything?
Well, team sucks. They suck.
I'll tell you this.
They're awful.
If there's a silver lining in all this, the rage-inducing, gutless efforts that they put in and night out has made me go back to the gym to finally release like anger and frustration. So there is a silver lining in all this. I can say that. But I mean, my God, it's every night. It's the worst product you've ever seen. It's just gutless hockey every night. And trading Kakko doesn't help it. It's not going to fix anything. It's not even going to put a Band-Aid on anything, to be honest with you. You're bringing in Will Borgen, who I'm sure is a nice guy, but, you know, he's not great. He makes more money than Kakko does. So you get 2 picks back in that as well. I don't think Will Borgen was the centerfold of this trade, but, you know, whether or not those rumors last year were true about Drury not wanting to give up Kakko for Vetrano and Henrique at the deadline were true, you know, we are selling him low at this point for what this was. It was basically a panic move, a move for the sake of making a move from Chris Drury, and frankly, I'm sick of his shit at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing that Will Borgen is going to do for us is if we could somehow flip him for more assets at the trade deadline, which I know has already been floated on Twitter. And that's funny. Like, that's how bad we are, that we're already like talking about the fact that someone we got as an acquisition could then be flipped again if we're sellers in a few weeks, which we probably will be, because this team is awful. They're not exciting. It's a bad product. It's a chore to watch. It's not like we're losing 6-5 games where teams are getting 2 or 3 lucky bounces, and we've been playing well. We're losing like 2-0 to the Predators, where the score sometimes isn't even as close as the game is. Like, the Rangers could have played that game forever, and they would have never scored a goal. So just at some point, the Predators had to put one into the back of the net or win in a shootout, because if it went to a shootout, none of our guys would have put it in the back of the net. So it's just a terrible, terrible team. And it's a terrible, terrible product. Like I just wish we were getting killed in these foot races up and down the ice where both teams are scoring, but we don't even threaten other teams. There's nobody on this team, especially when Panarin's out, that has the puck on their stick that I'm like, oh, something good's going to happen. Like, it's shocked that we've gotten to this point when I have friends that aren't Rangers fans, or I have friends that are Rangers fans that like are those classic, like, let's get ready for the playoffs. That's when they'll start paying attention to the team fans. They're like, what's different with this team? Like, what's different with this team? There's like, there has to be some change. And it's like, no, guys literally forgot how to play the sport of hockey. You got guys like Mika Zibanejad, who just are nowhere to be found. You got guys like Keandre Miller, who over the summer we talked about they were ones we needed to take the next step, where he's regressed. Vincent Trocheck, at least he opened his mouth today because no one has before he has, but his play on the ice has left us a lot to look for. So again, the only solution is one of these guys turning it around. And it's the thing that I keep saying. We're getting to that point where it's a sample size of enough that these guys aren't going to turn it around. I don't know exactly how many games it's been since we last spoke. I think it was 27 when we last spoke, and I don't know how many games it's been since then, because it's a product that literally blends together. It's a product that blends together how bad they are. But maybe we're at a sample size of 30, and then next week after we lose 2 or 3 games, we'll be at a sample size of 33. And eventually it's the point that this is just who we are. And I'm wondering at what point the Rangers community is actually going to shift gears into becoming sellers. Because I know I even texted in the group today, like as bad as we are, I still wake up and go to sleep like thinking that it's like a bad dream and that, oh, we're going to sneak into the playoffs because we're the Rangers. But then I'm going against the very thing I'm saying with the sample size, which is these dudes suck. They suck. I have friends that are like, can we at least restock and get things at the deadline? Like who's valuable? Maybe Panarin, if someone wants to take on that contract, but there has to be some finagling with that. We have nothing of value. And that's even said by Kakko, who's one of our most valuable / tradable assets when you look into everything in terms of contract, where he can go and who can take him on. We got a scrub and 2 late round picks for him. So that's what we're getting for selling off these players. Nothing that's going to make this franchise better anyway. So it's what do you do? And as much as I'm blowing smoke and I'm screaming about it, I'm still going to tune in every night until they're mathematically eliminated. But boy, oh boy, I have no answer besides Igor Shesterkin, who also hasn't been that great, going unconscious and showing us over the course of a few games where we can be like, okay, this is that week or 2 stretch where he's literally going to let nothing in. But if that doesn't happen, we're legit toast.
One of my buddies just sent me a picture of Kakko in a Kraken uniform and just said Kaapo Kakko, which is a great one.
Dude, it's going to kill me when he starts scoring goals and starts getting points. Because, look, he wasn't great, but he was also snake bitten to where he should be occasionally putting one in. I just know the few empty netters that he got a year, like wide open nets that he was missing with the Rangers, he's going to put in with the Kraken. So at least once every other week or 2 times in a month, we're going to have to see this guy scoring or getting the opportunity on the power play, doing what a lot of people said. It's no, dude, but that's the Rangers, and that's what happens. And I don't know the schedule, but if the Kraken come to New York, he's sure putting in
over.
2.
Yeah, played twice already.
Thank God. So, because that's easily he would score 2 goals and probably the game winner against us. But it's sad at this point. It's honestly sad. And again, I said it last week. I was excited when I looked at the schedule tonight and saw that the Rangers weren't playing because I can do something else with my time.
Yeah, I'm going to start with Kakko because obviously that's what we're talking about. Then I'm going to talk about some trade value and some cap stuff. But Kaapo Kakko, it just didn't work out, right? You could talk about the Rangers' development of him. You could talk about the player and not living up to the draft pick. You could talk about whatever you want. It didn't work out. It was time for a change of scenery. There wasn't much trade value, especially with how the Rangers have gone this early from the trade deadline. You weren't going to get much. They were able to get a defenseman who's NHL ready, who needed a change of scenery himself from Seattle. He had a good year last year, not playing well this year. So you never know what can happen. Some guys come to New York and they wind up being much better than you thought. Other guys come here and they collapse, as we've seen recently. So I'm completely fine with the move. Obviously, you want something more from a guy that you deem as a trade bait, but you can't really get that when the dude hasn't done anything to warrant trade value. And I want to touch on, a lot of people are like, oh, the Rangers can't develop prospects. It's the Rangers' fault. It's the Rangers' fault. This guy got top line minutes. He didn't get the power play time. Sure. But there's something missing from his game. When you draft somebody 2nd overall that doesn't have any foot speed and doesn't have the ability to really create goals, he can create offense by zone time, but he can't create goals. And when he gets golden opportunities, he's usually either getting robbed or missing. The points just were few and far in between from him. There's not a lot there, and it could all, in my opinion, be attributed to his foot speed, because I think skill-wise, he's extraordinarily skilled, but he just doesn't move at the pace of the NHL. And at the end of the day, you can't have a player like that on your team. So I've been cheering for him to be, moved on since we started the show last year and even before that, and not because I didn't like the guy or I didn't like the player, but the fit just wasn't there. The Rangers are a slow team as it is, and he was slow as molasses. If you look at any metric, it shows that. But when you look at the whole, they signed Shesterkin, right? So the contract's there. How do you retool?
What do you think about this comment, though, Brendan, before you go on? Because I think this is a good point.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. He got tied into the drama. And I don't think that I can't imagine or remember, I should say, any time in the last 6 years where Kakko said anything remotely, like where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe Kakko said that. But he sees what's going on.
He barely speaks English.
Exactly. He got tied into the shit that's going on with the rest.
Dude, this comment is so funny because there was a game last time, like a game last week or 2 weeks ago, where he got second line power play time and he got the puck at the line to go into their zone and brought it back into our zone. I think it was last week when we were talking about those two really bad power plays in that one game. That was one of them. He took the puck with his back to the net, could have gained the zone, and took it back all the way into our zone. And it's like the perfect way to describe it before we move on is, I think besides a select few that have grown to like him, which there is for every single type of player, no one's that sad that he's gone because he just wasn't a difference maker. So I think that's where we stand on him. And that sucks because, like, to get no emotion from a guy leaving that was the second overall pick, the first pick is part of a rebuild. He just left no lasting impression on us at all. And we're not going to be talking about him much more, going forward, probably.
No, and it sucks to see a guy that you drafted second overall that doesn't pan out, because those are the guys that usually make franchises get to that next level, and it didn't happen. So it's sad in that regard, but it's not somebody that's going to be necessarily missed day in and day out. And all this defensive propaganda that surrounded him, where he's the best defensive forward, the offense isn't there. I've been to so many games live, and he just gets beat to every puck on the wall. There's a lot of wing plays he misses. It's all
speed
smoke
again. It's
being brought up because we have to make up excuses for why he's valuable to the team when the offense isn't there. So I'm not going to trash this guy because from all accounts, he's a good kid. Hopefully he turns his career around because he's going to another city. You never know what could change. But, when you look at the Rangers, they signed Shesterkin, but they have a ton of deadline cap space. If they keep trending in this direction, which I think all three of us agree, the next 15 games, it's going to continue that way. They're going to be sellers again, and you never know who's going to be gone come this offseason. So we're talking about right now, if this was the offseason with the current roster, they have $22 million in cap space. If you're able to move Kreider and in turn you get Zibanejad to waive his no movement clause, we're talking upwards of $30 million that this team would be able to have to completely retool. And that's more than enough money to do that, especially when you're going to probably lose Quick and replace him with the cheaper version in Dylan Garand. You're going to add Gabe Perreault to the lineup, who's going to be on an entry-level deal. You have Berard, you have Othman, you have Will Cooley, who you have to re-sign. Hopefully you can get him locked up long-term without spending too much money. So the retool option is definitely there. Oh, and after next season, the CBA is up, so the cap's going to go over 100. And, oh, by the way, Connor McDavid becomes a free agent at that point too. So in my mind, yeah, you want to win. You wanted to have this window stay open with, Panarin and Shesterkin, but I kind of look to it where Panarin's contract's off the books after next year. This becomes your 2-year retool window where you could have your number one goalie locked up and you could have a ton of cap space to revamp this roster. So the Rangers, if the players in the locker room are so upset about the moves going on, well, you have a 15-game stretch now where you could really show what you got and bounce back, or else I can't imagine any situation where if they continue this trend that this team is intact in this offseason. There's
not a guaranteed win on the schedule from now until even the end of January.
There's not a guaranteed win anywhere.
We've lost to
They play Chicago and Columbus. Those are the two I would say winnable games in the next month.
Winnable, sure.
And
winnable.
They're not guarantees. I've been thinking about this for a lot today to talk about what exactly I was going to say. And we have gone at the players enough. We've gone at the coaching staff enough. We haven't gone at the coaching staff enough. You're right. He has skated by. That end of that St. Louis game was just pitiful coaching. But I got my eyes set on Drury, and the two things that you need to create a championship level team is talent and a winning culture. And by winning culture, I don't mean a culture that wins games. Like, you need to be doing the right things on and off the ice. And from what it sounds like, first of all, Drury never had to build a culture. Drury came in here after the whole Tom Wilson debacle and was basically handed the keys to a Lamborghini. There was no development that had to be done on his end to come in and build this hockey team. The stars were basically here already. He barely put Band-Aids on problems that they had. If you think about it, there has not been a year where this team has gone over the top because of a Drury move. 2022, you got some decent guys, whatever. They weren't supposed to really make a run that year. But in last year, where you're sitting here as the number one freaking team in the league, your deadline acquisitions are Alex Wenberg and Jack Roslovic. That's just piss poor roster construction, and it's every year with him. And he's now going on what, year 4, year 5-ish of his GM duties
Started
here.
in May 2021.
He started
so
May 21.
Yep.
It'd be
Fourth year.
Like, when I was in college, we had our coach Rand Pecknold, a legend in the college hockey realms, coached the World Junior team for Team USA, coached the national championship team in 2022. Every press conference he had, it was like a bingo card. Your free space was him talking about the team's culture and the team's identity. And that is built through the system. And that starts maybe not in college because you don't have a general manager, but in the professional ranks, that starts with your general manager to build a culture, a winning culture. And the Rangers just simply don't have that. Like, you have guys like Barclay Goodrow and Kakko and Trouba that are sitting here just dogging on the organization as soon as they have these nice comments after they leave, but you know how they feel. You know what they're going through. Like, this isn't a healthy place to play. No, like, regular person would want to sit here. If this was a company, which it is, but if this was like a marketing company or just any old random company, nobody would want to work here. You get employees for 3 months before they realize this place sucks and let's go leave and let's go somewhere else if they weren't under contract. The only way you get guys to stay is if you have them with a no move clause, and the no move clause is fucking them over, the organization over, because they can't get these guys out of it. So it's just like this tornado of just shit that's going through, from the players to the coaches to the management to apparently the team's social media staff. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'll tell you this. If there is something that the sport of hockey needs to get eyeballs on it, and I'm saying this as an objective person, I'm going to take myself out of the Rangers realm of my mind. This is what the league needs. The league needs stuff like this that gets people talking, and it's happening in the biggest market in the sport, one of the biggest markets in the sport. Sure, it sucks that it's happening to us. What did we do to deserve it? I'm not sure, but what do leagues like the NFL and the NBA have? And I know the NBA is going in the shitter at the moment, but they have eyeballs because they have this sort of drama and these stars being stars. Now, I'm not saying, Kakko and Trouba are stars by any means, but you have these storylines that you get to go through year in and year out. And, the NHL has been starved for that. It's just a bunch of cut and paste guys that say the same 5 phrases in every press conference. So, from an outside perspective, this is great for the league. For, inside Rangerland, I would like to find the tallest bridge and jump off of it, because I hate every night watching this team play hockey.
And when I was on my way home, I saw like someone quote tweeting, I think, Vince's article that he just dropped, and it had the story about Kreider scoring a hat trick and then not talking after the game because he didn't feel like they honored Jim Ramsey well enough.
They didn't.
And like when I read that on the way home, like I was kind of sitting like, that was like the last straw for me to ever think that these guys could ever turn around. Because if that's throwing you off so much that you got to hide from the media after a big win that you performed very well, there's just so much more you're worried about them performing on the ice and trying to win games. If something like that can throw you off as much as that seemed to throw him off, that man, oh man, for a bunch of guys that have never won anything besides some individual awards, they're a bunch of wusses. And like they just whine about everything else besides the fact that they got whooped on the ice. I'd like them to be so upset and mad about getting whooped on the ice as they are about their buddy that they just met 2 years ago getting traded to another team, or anything else that has to do with someone leaving the team and not on ice performance. But we can talk in circles and we can see him say many different things. These guys aren't the guys to turn it around. And to be honest, we thought Igor Shesterkin was at least good enough to, at the minimum, get us into the playoffs. But he's not with a team as bad as a team in front of him. Like, you can't look at, like, sure, you can look at Igor's numbers and say whatever you want, but we watch all the games. We know that, like, you got to throw his numbers out the window because any other goalie in his situation would have his numbers or worse. There's times that you could take our 5 men off the ice and we'd be playing as much defense in our own zone as when they're on the ice. These guys have the red carpet rolled out for them in front of Igor, and nobody cares. Like, nobody cares, or else something would be done. And I know my buddy commented earlier about Rempe. That's like the oldest shit in the book, like at this point. And that stuff pisses me off as well because he sucks at hockey. So what the hell are we bringing him up to bring some physicality? Like, again, we need Matt Rempe to spark former All-Stars, former All-Pro, former top 10 point scorer in the league players. Like, it's just not these guys. And like I said off the top, maybe Igor catches a spark and has a month or has a 6-week stretch where we have an incredible record because, the thing is the sample size is the sample size, but you can look at it the other way. 50 games is still enough to have a mini run at some point, but it's not coming anywhere else. And even if we get in, we know what's going on with this team. So I'm sure in a few weeks, we'll go from heartbreak, the stage of grieving, to the point where we start talking about how we're going to move on from people, have a screen up where we look at the 2025 free agents. But for now, we'll bitch and we'll moan. But we know what's going to happen with these guys. It's going nowhere. How many more games can they legit show nothing? Literally nothing. It's been like, I don't know, 240, 300 straight minutes of hockey at this point. Just as what it is. And again, we're not just losing to these bad teams. These bad teams look like good teams against us. Like, I'm almost shocked what I'm like hearing about these teams. I watched the Predators and I'm like, this team's fast as hell. And then you realize it's just relative to the slowest team of all time. But not only were we losing to bad teams, it's not like these situations where it's 2 bad teams and one team has to win. Some of these really bad teams are completely outplaying us, which is just unacceptable. Yep. I can get it if we were playing a great game and we got hockeyed or we got goalied. But we're losing the play most of these games, and it's being reflected on the scoreboard, and that's the toughest pill to swallow. We're legitimately worse than these teams.
To your point about that, I've heard that there are people that other organizations that after they play the Rangers have come back and said this was our best game of the year, and I mean that's as telling as it comes.
Rangers.
Yep. It's so easy, dude. It's so easy to play against us. It's so easy.
I'm glad you've kind of gotten into this, rage mode that I've been in for the last 2 months, basically since October, because I'm starting to see where I have been this whole time. But I mean,
it's just like, because when it's not as like, and I'm just gonna keep ranting, like it's just not a skill thing. Like, we all know it's not a skill thing. These guys are the same guys that were there last year, that have been there the last few years. It is not a skill thing. Nobody forgot to play hockey. These guys just don't care. And then, like, I sit there and I feel stupid because I'm like, yo, when the other team scores, like, I'm pissed and I'm showing more emotion than the guys on the ice are. And honestly, the other way, Steve, I think you said it a few weeks ago. The perfect word to describe when they score is relief. Like, it's like 5 guys in a huddle that don't even know each other, that are acquaintances more than friends, when in the past it's bear hugs, jumping on each other, headbutting each other. It's not a cohesive unit right now in a sport where you literally need all 5 guys on the ice to be a complete one organism unit at all times, moving up and down the ice.
Think about the image after Trocheck scored the OT goal against Carolina last year compared to what you see after a goal this year. It's just like, It's demoralizing.
They pound each other with like the end of their
because
gloves
every
at this
time
point.
they score, they know that the game's still over. It's like you're scoring just that. Okay, you got a goal. But since so many people apparently like record tweets after yesterday, I haven't had a tweet blow up like that in a while. But the Rangers have 15 losses this year in regulation. They're 15-15-1 after going 3-11-0 in their last 14 games. They had 23 regulation losses all of last year. There's 50 games still to go this season, and they are already 8 losses away from matching last year's total. It's just a complete debacle that we've seen. And, Steven, you brought up Chris Drury. I'm completely off the fan club of him. And the sad part about it is that I'm a Cowboys fan. So we have Jerry Jones on one side of my fandom that just every bad coach or, any move that could be bad that he can make, he does. Now you have James Dolan, who's apparently all team Drury, even though this is just an absolute shitstorm that's been created and mainly because of his doing. He inherited a roster in 2021 when he started in that offseason that had the same exact core intact that it has right now with Pavel Buchnevich. He moved Pavel Buchnevich. He kept this core intact, tinkered around the edges, and now he's upset that things aren't going the way. Well, hey, buddy, you're the GM of the team. You probably should have made a couple of moves earlier. You probably should have noticed that these same 5 to 6 veterans that have been on this team that haven't won anything are not going to now get the job done. And this isn't a narrative that just started this year. If you look at any of the fan pages, there has been numerous takes where even though they're winning, this core is not good enough to get over that hump. And if the fans seem to be, and I know that this is complete bias because we're just seeing the fan conversations, we have no idea what's being said behind closed doors, but it almost seems that this year, especially this year, that whatever is being talked about on social media ad nauseum with the fans, and what has happened is that for the first time in the last 3 years, all fans are agreeing right now on social media when it comes to this team, is that Trouba was the problem. So they finally, after this whole entire circus, moved him. Kakko wasn't getting it done, wasn't cutting it out for a second overall pick. He finally gets moved. But the one thing that fans seem to be agreeing on is that Chris Drury is just not the GM of the future, but yet the organization seems to be in line with the fact that he is. And if you have a GM who is scapegoating players, yes, ultimately from our perspective, we want to see the players finish the job on the ice. If you work hard, play hard, and win games, the GM can't scapegoat you. But at the same time, if you're at work and you're getting criticized every single day, you're going to be deteriorated coming into the office. It's the same thing. This is their job. And you have a GM who has proven absolutely nothing in his general manager tenure that is coming in here on his high horse saying, oh, we're going to just throw things out to the media. And the same guy, by the way, the last 2 years was completely tight-lipped with everything. You couldn't get a single word out of him as the trade deadline. There were rumors last year that they were in the running for Jake Gensel, but he wouldn't move Kaapo Kakko. Now he's moving Kaapo Kakko for Will Borgen and 2 late-round picks. Like, that is the GM. That's all the GM. I'm sorry. If you told anybody last year, we're going to acquire Jake Gensel at the deadline, in a year we're going to win the President's Trophy, and the only thing we have to give up is Kaapo Kakko, the only person that would have said no to that is the guy in charge in Chris Drury. And that, to me, is fireable offense. And then you look at the other stuff that's gone on this year with the moves, the leak, okay, we were 12-4-1, we're on a little bit of a rut, let's start leaking crap to the media, fireable offense. And then you talk about Peter Laviolette, and I didn't really want to get in, but it all ties together. You got a game in St. Louis, you're pull the goalie in the empty net. Berard scores a goal. Cooley scores a goal. The kids are the only people showing any type of effort, and he reverts right back to the Zibanejad, Kreiders, and all of them. Even though Panarin's out, like these veterans still get the chance somehow. Zibanejad played 3 shifts the entire third period, but spent the final 2 minutes of the game on the ice. That's a fireable offense. In a season right now that is completely spiraled and turned, where you have gotten no production from your veterans, nothing changes. We have all been screaming and saying, give Lafreniere power play one time, give the kids more of a chance, and they've been winning games, so it hasn't happened. You are now losing games consistently. This is the perfect opportunity with a 2-minute empty net chance to give some of these kids a chance, and it doesn't happen. And that is where the anger comes from. Sometimes teams are bad, but when teams are bad by self-inflicted wounds, both on the ice and by the people making decisions, that's where fans get frustrated, and that's where we're at right now.
I got a lot of my anger out early on during this rut, because I, like a lot of other people, saw what this team was. It was a team full of guys that just didn't care. And I don't like that we turned out to be correct. But unfortunately, we've watched enough hockey to know when teams are good, when teams are bad, when teams give a shit, and when teams don't. And it was very clear very early that this team just did not give a shit. And when it came down to, like, when I watch these games now, I'm not even angry. Everything's expected at this point. When was the last time the Rangers gave up the first goal to come back and win the game? I don't remember. I'll tell you something. They haven't come back from 2 goals all season to come back and win a game. That's just utterly embarrassing. In a league that prioritizes comeback wins, the NHL put out a statement saying last year that the comeback wins are as high as they've ever been, this and that. They gave numbers. The Rangers haven't come back all season from a 2-goal deficit to win the game. They've only come back twice all season to fucking tie the game, let alone to win the game. They did it in the second game of the year against Utah, and they did it against Calgary. Those are the only 2 times they came back from 2-goal deficits to just tie the game, let alone win the damn thing, because they haven't done it yet this year. So when I sit there and I watch the game and I see the first goal go in, there's no need for me to watch the rest of it, because why am I going to believe that these 25 group of losers are going to sit here and fight for getting that goal back? They're not. When was the last time they gave up the first goal only to score the second goal? It's not very often. Most of the time they're giving up the second goal anyway. Their first goal doesn't come until it's fucking 4-1 or 4-0 anyway. The game's over at that point. Like, I watch the games because, not that I have to, but I want to. It's a sick thing in my head that I want to watch these games, and it's in all of our heads, but I do, because we said it. It's almost like a train wreck. You just want to see what happens. And every night, every single night, it's the same script. They come out, they'll play good for 5 minutes or whatever, or they'll give up a goal in the first 30 seconds, and then they'll give up the first goal. They're never leading. In the last 5 games, they've held the lead 1 time against Buffalo. That was it. All 4 games, or all those other 4 games, they've never held a lead in those games. So they're never playing from in front. And when they are playing from in front, they have no earthly idea how to hold the lead. So you're either unable to come back, or when you have the lead, unable to hold it. And that's how you get in a stretch of 3-11. You're not even losing games in overtime to get points. You've got 6 points in your last 14 games. I'm at a loss for words. I really am at a loss for words.
It's the most glaring splits, I think, that I've ever seen. And you kind of touched on it. But when they score first, they're 12-2. When they lead after 1, they're 9-1. And when they lead after 2, they're 13-1 this year. Okay? That's it. When they give up the first goal in a game, they're 3-13-1. When they trail after one period, they're 1-10. And when they trail after 2 periods, they're 0-12-1. I think I said this last week. The last season plus, so including last year and this year, there have never been more multi-goal comebacks in NHL history than there have been in that span. Last year, the Rangers would go down in games, and all 3 of us, I know, had this feeling, but there was the sense of they're going to figure it out. They just had that no-quit mentality. That's where that whole stupid slogan that they still use came from, the no-quit New York crap. But they had a mentality where we gave up a goal. Every single team in the NHL has given up a goal. Every single team that's won a cup has given up goals. It happens. Move on. It was like, okay, quick forget. You got that memory gone. Sucks that you gave it up. Let's get the next one. This year they give up a goal, and it goes quiet. It goes quiet, and it's pathetic. I have never seen a team that just is a shell of themselves after giving up a goal. And it's not even when they're tied and they give up the next goal. It's like they could be up 1-0 and give up the tying goal. The game's still tied. You are in a position to win, and it is just a complete demoralizing feeling across the whole bench. Their heads are hanging. It's like, bro, it's 1-1. Figure it out. You're down 1-0 against Nashville, and you were the better team the majority of that first period. Why the next 2 periods can you not just come out and say, if we play the way that we can play, we should have no problem scoring here? It just becomes, we're going to get continually worse now because we're chasing a game. It's all mental. it has to be all mental because, like you said, Zook, it's not a completely different team. It's the same team they're running it back with. Sure, there might be a couple of guys regressing, but they don't go from a President's Trophy to being complete ass all of a sudden. It's just a complete mental thing where they are all disinterested in what's happening in the 60 minutes of hockey and completely focused on the hoopla that's going around them.
Yeah, I'm interested why they don't care, because it's a bunch of guys who have won nothing that some of them are getting towards the end of their quote unquote prime. Some of them are getting towards the end of their even careers as a whole. And you would think they would want to add maybe some trophies that they don't have at all into their trophy case. So there's a lot of guys on the team that you would think the opposite of, you would think would be super hungry based on what has happened in the past, or certain narratives that have surrounded them. All players have done this year on the Rangers is prove the haters true. It's a bunch of people that all at the same time don't care. And I like that you guys touched on all of it, because everyone seems to think, oh, it's the players, or oh, it's the coaches, or oh, it's Drury. It's just a perfect storm where they all suck. All phases suck. And I guess you can nitpick and say this one's worse than that one, or that one's worse than this one, but it doesn't matter, because when all three of those phases suck at the same time, upper management, coaching, and players, specifically player effort, you have no chance, and especially have no chance to turn it around when it's going bad. Like, in no spot is there a leader that can pull the other two factions, if we're dividing upper management, coaching, and the players into three factions. No one of those can I look to and say, that's going to be the one that's going to get the other two going. It's not going to be Drury. It's not going to be Laviolette or this coaching staff. It's not going to be the players that we have on the ice right now. So because we're not mathematically eliminated, I'm going to pray Igor stands on his head, because we'll do what all Rangers fans do. And if he gets hot, we'll forget about the fact for a little bit. We'll obviously still bring it up that it's a fluky team, but you get us in the playoffs, we're going to all do that thing where we get crazy and believe what we have, what it takes to win it all, to unfortunately probably not. But for now, man, it doesn't look like that's going to happen at all. And it may be an asset acquisition spring and end of winter, where it's how much of this dead fat can we trim off to get possibly anything for that can help us, plus just give us more room to get more people over the summer. But I've seen a lot of people bring this up. We're not really the greatest destination in the world. I'm not sure who's running to come to New York. Obviously, some people will always take the money, and we'll have a lot of money, so that could always be the deciding factor for people. But we've shown no proof that we have what it takes to build a sustainable winning organization. Sure, if you want to be cute and make the playoffs a bunch and have your goalie get hot and go on a run to the Eastern Conference Finals where you should have probably lost the round before, we're the team for you. But if you want to win a Stanley Cup, or ever really, really broach the topic of being able to win a Stanley Cup over the course of multiple years, the Rangers don't have that to offer you as currently constituted. We need a whole organizational makeover. It starts from the top. It starts from the bottom. It starts from the middle. It doesn't matter. All these guys got to be gone, and we got to bring in new people to a really unappealing situation. Pray that we can sell some people on having a lot of money and it being the New York Rangers, and there's some gravitas behind that. But until that happens, it's nothing but a hope and a prayer and a whim. And the fact that it's not guys, we've never seen it before. So, hey, maybe something magical will happen when the calendar turns. But look, we're talking. How many times have we said that the past few weeks? And it's just getting later and later where, look, I look forward to those asset acquisition episodes, because it means we've gotten over our false hopes about this team and we're turning the page to next year. And it'll be fun starting to talk about cutting some of these guys that I'm just absolutely sick of. Like, I'm sick of watching some of these guys. It's no excitement. It's guys that for some reason feel like they've earned the right to coast during the regular season, but I'm just done with them all. And if you told me, besides Shesterkin, we either had to keep this team or we can get rid of everyone and choose guys from a hat that are around the same contracts that our certain players are, I would just reshuffle the whole deck at this point and hope you get some less talented players that actually care. And we've seen that, like, over the course of my life, that's been most of the more successful Ranger teams. Lundqvist in net, with guys that give a shit in front of him. And yeah, there was a ceiling on those teams, but I enjoyed like hell rooting for those teams. And I got up for watching those games during the regular season because I knew those teams were going to bring it for 60 minutes. This team just it's not for me, and I don't think it's for a lot of Rangers fans because if they don't care, why should we?
Yeah, I saw something that said the last time the Rangers were 15-15-1, it was the year that they went to the Cup in 2013-14.
Stop.
So no, that you got to let me finish that.
I know. I'm not saying you stop. I'm saying these people.
That's the exact thing that you just said, Zook. Is that that team didn't have the talent that this team should have, but that 2013-14 team was
gritty,
blocking every shot. They were doing every little thing right. And they had the ability and the mental fortitude to figure it out. This team hasn't exhibited that.
Dude, how many games does Will Cooley have more hits than the rest of the team combined?
A lot.
It's sad.
A lot, but they're also chasing the game a lot. But to make everything better, by the way, because I know Steven's going to love this, the Rangers' strength of schedule so far has been the 31st in the league. So they've had the second easiest strength of schedule, and they're 15-15-1. So guess what's about to happen? That's about to ratchet up. So there's two things that are going to happen at this point. Either it's going to continue in a really bad way because now you're going to be playing good teams, and we're going to be watching 5-0 games that the Rangers are just going to be getting caved every single night, or they're all of a sudden going to be playing really good teams and decide we have to actually show something, and everything's going to change. Now, I'm not a delusional human being, so I know that the latter is not likely. So just get ready for tomorrow night. You know, if your Friday night was planned around watching the Rangers play the Dallas Stars, you might want to have a couple of adult beverages around because that's going to be an absolute
or have some plans for afterwards because that game starts at 8. The puck drop will be at 8:10. I'm sure around 8:30 you'll be able to go wherever you need to go.
It's ridiculous.
It's just so bad. It's just
the schedule
so bad.
is bad. Like I'm gonna bring it up.
Are we approaching 2017 Avs bad? Like, is that what this is?
Like over these next 5 games before the calendar turns, what do you think the combined score of these 5 games are? Like I would say
a lot of math.
17
way
to 4.
Too much math. That's way too much math.
17 to 4 is what I'm gonna say.
17 in 5 games?
You think they're only giving up just a tad over 3 goals a game?
45 to 4.
I think they lose 5-1
Fucking
to Dallas.
9 at night.
They're gonna get destroyed in Dallas, and it's gonna be a zoo there.
They're gonna beat Carolina. They're gonna get killed by New Jersey, killed by Tampa, killed by Florida, and lose in overtime to Boston.
And then Ovi's gonna come back on January 4th, and he'll score 4. And then there we go. Chicago, Dallas, New Jersey, Vegas, Colorado, Utah. Holy shit.
Well, like Brendan just said, like we'll find patches, maybe 2 games in a row against winnable teams, but the schedule is going to turn from now until the rest of the season.
In a row
go the other way.
Month and a half.
There's a very good chance at the end of January they're like 17-24-2.
Yeah.
Is there anyone good besides Hagens in this draft?
The top 3 are actually pretty good. I haven't done enough research yet because I wasn't anticipating that the Rangers would be in the top 3. But hey, you know, if it continues this way, I'll have to start doing some digging on the prospects. I've stayed away from that realm because they haven't been remotely close to having any picks in that category, and they actually haven't had any first-round picks because they've been trading them for third-line role players.
Do you want them to get the top 3 pick? You just traded the
number
2 overall pick.
Yeah.
Do you want him at a top 5
It's still a numbers game.
Lafreniere was a first-round pick that we all know has talent. He's started to get better, but he's inconsistent. That's not the type of number 1 pick that you would have hoped for. He still can change it, and I think he's a very good player. But when you look at some of the other number 1 picks, that's what you wanted, obviously. Number 2 pick, you need somebody that could be a slightly lower, B option to that number 1 pick. Kakko clearly wasn't even a D option in that regard. So I think it's really hard to go 0 for 3 with elite talent in the top 3. And I think that they had those 2 picks so close together in drafts that weren't necessarily the strongest. Like that Lafreniere draft, I don't think was really that deep. The Kakko one hurts because you could have had Jack Hughes if you flip-flop those picks. But this year, I
think
to
be in either of those. You weren't supposed to be in the top 5.
It was gifted. So maybe if they actually are supposed to be there, the kid will pan out. And then in which case, and by the way, Hagen's playing with Perreault That
They're
that
so
really
And then just trade for Riley Leonard, and here we are.
I'm a BC
Exactly.
fan, I think, honestly, because those guys are just going tic-tac-toe around the ice, and we got these bums in Rangers jerseys that can't even get the puck out of their zone with 5-foot passes.
Yeah, I don't even know what to watch anymore because like there's no enjoyment. I used to watch the Rangers win or lose, just enjoy the game, keep it going, watch something on the West Coast. Now I watch the Rangers for like 20 minutes, and there's just it's demoralizing. It's disappointing. It makes me despise hockey because they can't even play it the proper way. It's
so
like I'm watching
bad.
Pee-wee
They're not
hockey.
playing hockey. I don't know what they're playing, but it's certainly not hockey.
It's such bad hockey that isn't enjoyable, and I've said it the past 3 weeks. Again, excited that I look at the schedule and see that we're not playing tonight. Tomorrow, I'm actually excited that we have a game at that time because I'll be on a flight, but if I was doing anything else, I'd be pissed that they're playing tomorrow
If
night.
they win tomorrow, how back are you?
Like, I want to be back. That's the thing. And that's what drives me every night. Like, I need like 2 or 3 good performances from this team to get me right back. Like, again, it's not like we're a bad team that have had this bad core that hasn't had success before. So we've seen it before. This season, I'm not sure what the hell is going on.
You're way too optimistic. I know full well if they won 2 in a row right now, that you would text in that chat just like eye emojis.
They'd be back. Like, but the thing is, they would be back. That's what's so fucking annoying about the NHL, especially the East.
What do I tell you all the time?
Suck.
What do I
These
tell you all the
teams
time?
suck.
Well, how many game sample sizes?
For what?
5.
Sorry.
Like for the season to
Yeah,
evaluate.
you go in 5 game
5
sample sizes.
right? So if they won 2 in a row, that means that there's still a chance in that 5 game sample size they finish under 500. I need to see back-to-back 5 game sample sizes with an above 500 record before I am getting anywhere remotely close to saying, okay, they can make the playoffs.
What if they go 3-2 and look good before the season ends?
Not good enough because of how many games that they've lost points in now. And, you look at it, the Islanders are the perfect example. They're hovering where the Rangers are right now because they're at least extending and getting a point out of it. The Rangers haven't even been able to do that. I need to see back-to-back 3-1-1s, right? Or 2-1-2s even, where they're losing 3 games, but they're getting points in 4 of them. And until you do that, it's ridiculous. And I can't even get excited for that right now because
this has honestly helped my Rangers fandom. The fact that I think the Mets are going to be good now, but like
signing with the Mets is terrible
right now
look how fat he got already.
He's so fat. He's so fat. And I think David Stearns is having like a panic attack that he's got to put him in right field because he's all about run prevention. But it's sad that Mets fans are getting excited for the Mets
Which
over
gets
the
me
Rangers.
so excited because I know how the Mets operate. It's like the Jets fans this year.
No, the Mets are going to be good.
Guess who roots for that team too? This guy.
That's what I'm saying. There's nothing I can turn to right now.
I'm miserable all the time.
Can't watch football. Can't watch
Are you a Knicks
hockey.
fan?
You
don't like basketball, right?
Technically, but I can't watch basketball. Yeah. It bores me.
Leon Rose talking about the Knicks was also bad for the Rangers because Dolan was very hands off the Rangers when he was very hands in on the Knicks. I guess with playing his blues concerts, he only has time for one team. Now that Leon Rose is running the Knicks as one of the better organizations, honestly, in all of sports since he's taken over. What an incredible guy. I think Dolan's had his hands a little bit more during this Drury tenure because they came to around the same time. The Knicks found great success. And I think now with the Rangers, since they were the first to falter between the two franchises that have had a good run over the last 2 to 3 years, he dipped his hands right back into the Rangers like we've seen in the past with Sather. And
you know what
it's
sucks
not
about
right.
that is that if there was no hard cap in the NHL like there are not,
he'd be the best owner.
He actually would be a good owner because he's clearly giving the reins to spend whatever you can.
Dude, Mets fans wanted Dolan. Mets, Knicks, and Rangers fans wanted Dolan to buy the Mets for so long when it was the Wilpons because that was the only thing he has going for him. He pays like 5 Knicks coaches right now on his payroll because he doesn't care
about that. I'm not as much of the anti-Rangers Knicks ownership as there are people. I think
I'm
he's
not
a
either.
lot more
He's
the hockey
just a
players
dick.
and the management.
That's all it is.
But
He's
the fourth out of 4 problems I think of this
Correct.
Rangers
There's-
team.
Yeah,
Like,
he's not-
he's the
there's
owner.
no-
There's levels.
No, yeah,
Listen,
there's no issue with
if
him.
you're one of the people that thinks that there's not a coaching issue right now, you're wrong. If you also don't, if you're one of the people that thinks it's a coaching issue and not a player issue, you're very wrong. And if you're one of those people that thinks it's not all three and a combination of all three, you're still wrong. Because I don't care how bad the Rangers players are right now. I don't care how bad Laviolette might be looking. I don't care how bad Drury is. They're all just bad on top of each other. Whenever you have a good hockey team, right, and you could pick any team in the league that's been good for a long time. Let's look at Tampa, because they actually are the perfect comparison with what they did with Stamkos, right? You have a coach there that's solidified, a GM there that's solidified, that both are preaching the same message. Both are on the same page. And it doesn't matter who's coming into that lineup. They know what they have to do. There's a structure, there's a way that they play and a way that they carry themselves. And that's why they've been good for this long. Nobody could have looked at that team and said, okay, you lost Stamkos and added Gensel, but you're still going to be the same exact team, right? That's the captain of their team for how long, the heart and soul, the guy that's been there for all of that crap. He leaves because, oh, by the way, they didn't want to pay him anything more than, $3 million a year? That's a smack in the face to your captain. It didn't affect that team. But, God forbid, Jacob Trouba gets traded, who's way overpaid. All of a sudden, this team crumbles in front of everybody, and it's the boy who cried wolf with everything. Oh, we had a players-only meeting, and we didn't talk about Drury. Oh, but this outlet says they did talk about it. I bet you Drury's name came up, and I bet you it wasn't the focus, but somebody got sidetracked when they brought up how bad they've been playing, and they were like, oh, well, this guy's airing out our dirty laundry. It doesn't matter. The only person's dirty laundry that's aired out right now is Riley Smith in the rafters at Nashville after he got deked out of his jockstrap by a no-name defenseman, a guy whose name is Simon. He basically is a Barclay Premier League's forward that just all of a sudden decided he wanted to put on skates, and Riley Smith went so far into the other zone, he was standing next to UC Saros. It was pathetic. The veterans gotta go.
They suck.
But it's the veterans. I said this 3 weeks ago. Bench a veteran, and I'm not talking about a Jimmy Vesey or a Riley Smith. I'm talking about somebody like not somebody like Mika Zibanejad. Bench him just one game, right? I don't even think he was the biggest problem in the game against Nashville, but bench him one game. Just send that message. Don't say, oh, we're floating out names in the trade rumor mill. Actually make a statement by not playing this dude. Because right now, all you're doing is benching him for the majority of the game and then giving him the most important shifts. That's not how you send a message.
Except they'll trade Kakko because they think that, that's going to be the thing that sends the message, even though when he wasn't playing well, he's one of the few guys that more goals are scored when he's on the ice than not on the ice. But they think that's what's going to, get the veterans going, that we traded Kaapo Kakko. It's just a mess of a team that, look, we're going to hope each week that the 2 or 3 games in between, we have some wins and eventually a winning streak starts where we can get behind it. But for now, there's nothing. There's nothing. It's a bunch of bums.
We've given this team 52 minutes and 41 more seconds than it deserves at the moment. Like, there should be nobody that talks about this team because they're dog shit and their effort is dog shit, and they don't want to be there as much as the fans want to be there. So, what's the point of talking about them? Like,
I got games coming up.
Sell it.
I got 5 games coming up in the next 2 or 3 months, or maybe 6 or 7 games. I'm so upset. I'm not looking forward to going. I'm kind of looking forward to go to the first one because I haven't gone yet. But man, I'm gonna schlep to the city to watch a team get absolutely wiped out because I happen to pick good games against good teams. So we're gonna get absolutely destroyed, and then I'm gonna have to drive back. It's just a nightmare situation right now.
The only games I'm going to right now are games that were gifted or bought for me. I'm not spending a dime to watch that effort. It's ridiculous. It's like there's a level, and I love to go in person because, as I say all the time, there's things that you can see when you're sitting from that bird's eye view, that you have the real game speed. It's not on TV. It's not distracted by camera angles, where you could actually see the flaws and you could actually see the breakdowns in real speed, in structure. And sometimes you don't notice Ryan Lindgren, how bad he is on TV, especially this year. But when you're at a game and you watch a play where he's got full possession of the puck and he's got the 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi to take a look up, make a play, and he flubs a pass, or you watch Zach Jones take a pinch and it's just, why are you ever doing that? Or you watch Keandre Miller just completely take his foot off the gas when he's got possession of the puck, thinking nobody's around him and he gets pickpocketed, or you watch Zibanejad try to skate and all of a sudden it looks like he's got lead in his skates. There's just so many things that are especially prevalent this year that when you're at a game you could see. And I just have no desire to go anymore and watch it because I've already seen 2 or 3 times just how piss poor they are. And I'm not somebody that's like, oh, I'm not going to be a Rangers fan if they suck. I've been a Rangers fan when they've sucked for 26 years. So that's not, I'm not like, a fair weather fan, but I usually go to 5 to 10 games a year. I have no desire to do that this year. And it's not because they're losing. It's because of how they're playing. It's just,
if they don't care, then why should we care?
exactly.
That's how it's got to be.
Show any sign of fight. Like last night in Nashville, you're playing the worst team in the league. You already lost to a statistically worst team in the league 8 days or 9 days ago in Chicago. This team is now below Chicago, basically because they beat you. And you're coming out. You have I thought they were completely dominant the first 5 to 10 minutes. Nashville barely touched the puck. The Rangers had chances. Saros made a couple of big saves. They give up a goal. All right, boo-hoo. You gave up a goal to Nashville. Nashville averages 2.2 goals a game. They're not scoring more than 2. And they didn't score more than 2. But at the same time, that same breath, you cannot create anything the next 40 minutes. And yeah, they had 1 or 2 good chances after it got to 2-0. That doesn't matter anymore, though. Yeah. Like, it's just, where is that desire to just win a game? When is there a desire to look over your right shoulder, look over your left shoulder, and be like, screw the noise, screw the GM, screw the coach, screw the jersey, all of that. I'm just playing for the dudes that are my boys sitting next to me. It's like, where is that? Last year, it was all over the entire team. It didn't matter who it was. There was celebration all over the place whenever anybody scored, whenever they did anything right. This year, it's just nobody gives a crap. It's like that book club nobody wants to go to.
Not even play for the guys. Fucking play for yourself. Like, are you not embarrassed about the effort that you get every single night? You're paid millions.
You're the laughing stock of the league right now. You're the laughing stock of a league in a league that has the Buffalo Sabres. The Rangers, and you
deserve it. The Buffalo Sabres. I will say this because I got a couple comments saying I went my video last week that said the Rangers are the worst team in the league, and I said yes. A lot of people said Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, I saw that.
Hey, let's keep in mind during this 10-game losing streak that the Buffalo Sabres have had. If you go back to November 20th, the Rangers and Sabres have the same amount of wins. 3. And the Buffalo Sabres are on an 11-game losing streak. And the Rangers and Sabres have the same amount. The Sabres started their win streak or their losing streak 3 days later on the 23rd. Yeah. And the Rangers and Sabres have the same amount of. It's pitiful. It's just awful. But if you're not going to play for the fans, if you're not going to play for your coach, your GM, the jersey, the letter on your chest, the guys next to you, play for yourself. Show up. Have some sort of pride. It's ridiculous. Every night you're the second hardest working team on the ice, and it's not even close. You're not even close to being in the game. Like, I'm so sick and tired of watching these guys play. Every night with them is just, I'd rather be at the dentist. I really would. I'd rather be getting a root canal. I'd rather be doing a crossword puzzle. I would just rather be doing anything else. But what bothers me the most is not that they're losing, and it's not that they're losing to bad teams. It's that they just don't give a shit. And that's the most infuriating part, because if you lose and you care, I can understand that because at least you're trying. But if you're losing and you don't want to be there, I can't feel bad for you. And you make $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 million a year. I can't feel bad for you. I'm so sorry.
That's the craziest thing when I look at it is like there's almost the sense of what they need is to just go on a stretch where they're playing elite after elite team. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? What's been happening right now, at least you don't have the excuse that you're losing to the 32nd ranked team. You could say I'm losing to actual good teams, but there's almost a sense of like when you're playing teams that are that good and that much better than you, especially if they lose by a lot tomorrow night to Dallas. Like if they get creamed again, like and the next game after that, you're playing Carolina, another good team. There has to be eventually, you would think, because they're human beings, something like, come on, guys. Like it should have happened 7-8 games ago. I get that, but they haven't been playing good teams. And whenever you play a bad team, you do have that sense of I could take my foot off the gas, even though they're going through this slump, and they shouldn't have that. As a team that's been to 2 or 3 Eastern Conference Finals, it's innately going to be in the back of their mind. Now you're playing good teams. That's the only silver lining I could see. That and the fact that Artemi Panarin should be back tomorrow. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but they have no offense without him. So it would be nice to get that guy back and just get anybody back. If they get Panarin back and get one other guy besides Will Cooley going, that's a start. That's a start. And the biggest guy that has to get going is Shesterkin. He wasn't the reason they lost the last couple of games, but there's got to be one stolen one here every once in a while.
I'm done. I got nothing else.
Yeah, I think I am too. Zook, you want to finish anything up? I'm not even going to do predictions because I think we're all
No, it's just
over.
I think we're all saying the same thing. So I guess there's really nothing else to talk about with this team, and hopefully they turn it around a little bit, or people might start seeing our episodes, might start getting 5 minutes shorter by 5 minutes shorter until the end of the year when it's 2 minutes and we're just saying hello. Yeah, we've lost our 40th game in a row. Nothing else to report. We'll see you next week.
Well, for the 200 people that have stuck around this entire time to I guess share in the misery that Rangers fans are going through right now, and for the odd Devils fan that's enjoying it, we want to wish you all happy holidays. Next episode's not going to be till after Christmas, so happy holidays to all that, whatever you celebrate, and hopefully next week we'll get a holiday present with at least one win.
And as the great Larry David said, "Fuck you, I'll see you tomorrow." Good night, everybody.
See ya.